Reuben, it didn't look like a very good start for the Eagles on Sunday, but they get it done. A big win. They have a winning record right now.
It didn't look like a good start. It wasn't a good start. It was a terrible start. It was the worst half you can imagine. But yeah, they bounced back. You kind of figured they would, kind of like last week or this week, Tuesday, last week. 8-7 after a 2-5 start. There's a lot to be excited about, a lot to be encouraged by.
Yeah, this is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We have a lot to get to. 34-10, the final score. With this win, the Eagles are in a playoff spot right now. They control their own destiny for the first time. If they win out, they will make the playoffs, but they can even get there next week. We'll go through some of those scenarios. We'll talk about this game. The defense really came to play for the entire game. The offense played the second half, and it was more than enough against that Giants team. Jalen Hurts had some rough moments in that game, had some good moments. We'll talk about how he played, and the two touchdowns were fun, to say the least. So we'll talk about those two touchdown passes, and then we'll have a negativity corner at the end of the game. But, Rube, from a big picture perspective, this is big. I mean, they're 8-7. It's the first time they've had a winning record since September.
Yeah, and you're wrong about the first time they control their own destiny. They did after the Falcons game, I would think. But
Yeah, that's true.
I remember once we were out in Arizona with the Eagles before a Week 16 game, back when there were only 16 weeks, and Randall was in a. We were at we're at this resort called the Point at South Mountain in Tempe, and Randall saw a couple of writers, me and someone else, walking by, and he yelled out the window about the playoff picture, and he asked us, do we control our own density? And then that was before Back to the Future, and when that they stole the line from it. But anyway, what was the question?
Gosh, we are off the rails real quick.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, I mean, they're 6-2 in their last 8 games. They won 3 in a row. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL at this point. You go back to since the Raiders game. It all started after the Raiders game. They were at a low point, and I mean, this team has shown so much resilience and character. These are words that get tossed around a lot in sports, but to go what that team went through, and be sitting here with really a really fair chance to get to the postseason. I mean, we'll talk about the playoff picture, but for the most part, to make it simple, if they beat Washington and the Packers beat Minnesota, they have about a 90% chance to get in. I mean, there's ways they can't if that happens, and there's ways they can if that doesn't happen. But that's their path. That's a really good path to that 7 seed, and that's exciting considering where we were a couple months ago. It's really remarkable where this team is now.
Yeah, and they got some help on Sunday. The Rams beat the Vikings. Rams playing on a short week too, and that was in Minnesota, so that wasn't a given. But the Rams took care of business. The Vikings came into today in that 7th spot, so the Eagles flip with them. They're in a good spot right now because the teams behind them are the Vikings. The Saints, who are 7-7, they play on Monday night, but the Eagles have the tiebreaker over the Saints. So even if the Saints win on Monday, the Eagles will still stay in that 7th seed. So there are scenarios where they can clinch a playoff berth next week. And they shouldn't be thinking about that, but we can. We can have some fun with it.
Yeah, I try to, just take it one day at a time and not get ahead of myself. But, these are all things. Who would have thought when they were sitting 2-5 that we'd even be considering or talking about? But here we are. And again, I know I already gotten tweets about, who have they played? They played who's on schedule, and you can't have it both ways. I mean, they had a landmine of a schedule the first, 7 weeks or so of the season, and it got easier. And they have taken advantage of it. This is a new team with a new staff, a new coach, a lot of new players, a young quarterback, and they took their lumps early and they held it together. And that's a rare thing. I mean, that takes a lot. It takes a lot of inner strength and belief in yourself and belief in the people around you and your coach. to get from. I mean, I looked it up on StatHead. One of the few moments where it was working today. They have the record finder, so you can look up every team that's 2-5 and how they finished the season. There's been 294 of them, and only 16 have had a winning record. Now, it's weird because of the 17-game season. Only 9 of them have made the postseason. Now, I'm sure a bunch of others would have been the 7 seed.
Exactly.
It would be difficult to figure out how many, but not all that many. Basically, 2-5 is a death knell for most football teams that have ever played in the NFL. So it's rare what they're doing, and they're playing their best football. I mean, look, I know the first half was terrible, but I mean, this was I think the final score, or at least what the score was before that last touchdown against the Subs. I mean, this was a blowout. They just kind of condensed it into one half.
Yeah, it's almost not that you forget about the first half, because there are things that they really need to try to clean up. They have to be better than that. And if they play a better team, that kind of effort isn't going to work. But they did what they needed to do. And that's the thing. You brought up the schedule, and it is easy for people to be like, well, who are they beating? They just beat Jake Fromm. And look, I get it, but I don't think anyone is looking at the Eagles saying, well, this is a Super Bowl team. I think we're all somewhat realistic about what this is, but they're beating the teams in front of them. They're giving themselves a chance to get to the playoffs, and then you never know. I mean, I don't think any of us think they're going to go on a Super Bowl run, but you get there and you see what you have in your team and your young players and your young quarterback and your first-year head coach. I mean, there's so many questions that can get answered by a playoff run, and the Eagles are really close to getting there.
Yeah, and what an experience that would be for every single person in the organization, the coaches. It would be incredible, and yeah, I think you learn more about everybody when you're in that. When you're playing the postseason, everything's magnified. The game's faster, the hits are harder, the crowds are louder. It's a different animal, and it's to see Jalen Hurts in that atmosphere and Nick Sirianni, how does he respond? It would be invaluable stuff for the organization, for the players, for the coaches. And I'll tell you what, teams don't want to play the Eagles right now. And I'm not under any illusions I could go on a big run, like you said. And we'll see who the 2-7 game is. There's nobody in the NFC other than the Packers, who I think are going to be the one, that you look at and you say, this is a complete mismatch at this point. I mean, obviously you don't want to play Tom Brady, but he's getting old. He's getting a little older.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have a chance. It'll be an outside chance, but they have a chance to win a game. We'll see how it matches up. I don't get too far ahead of ourselves because they got to get there first. But I think the main thing is just the experience of getting there and being there, and experience that atmosphere, and just kind of soaking it all in, and let's see how they respond. It's exciting to think about.
Yeah, it really is. And just to lay out the scenario of how they can clinch a playoff spot next week, obviously they'd have to win in Washington. It would take a Vikings loss, and if the Saints lose to the Panthers, that would right there, they'd be in the playoffs. That's all it would take. And I don't think any of those outcomes are long shots, really. I mean, all those things can happen.
Yeah, and imagine
that's the easiest way. There are some other scenarios, but that's the easiest way to look.
But it's funny because we've been saying all year, like, maybe that last game won't mean anything to the Cowboys. Maybe it won't mean anything to the Eagles. Maybe they would have a chance to improve their seeding.
Possibly, because the 49ers are
Right.
they have the same record and they're in the 6th seed.
Yeah. And then if the NFC Championship game is the 6-7, if you're the 6, then you can host the NFC Championship game. So that's something to, something to hope for.
I mean, we could end up in I think it's theoretically possible to end up in a scenario where in week 18, the Cowboys could be playing for the right to play the Eagles.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if they'd want that, or if that would be an interesting thing to figure out once we get there. But
yeah, Huh. So if they start losing really bad, they're like, we don't want to play them again. Or let's just lose.
Let's just lose. Yeah.
But
That'd be funny. But I mean, they're in a great spot right now, and this is it wasn't the prettiest game today. I mean, that first half was, gosh, that was hard to watch for either team. I mean, it was just a brutal, brutal game. But at least offensively, you got the sense that the Eagles' defense was playing well, and the Giants' defense didn't have to
right,
early.
right.
I mean, the Eagles' defense I felt like played really well this entire game. I mean, they're playing from an offense that stinks, but they were getting constant pressure. The secondary played great. I mean, the defensive line, we've talked plenty this year about them not playing up to their standard. I thought they did today. I thought they were really good.
Yeah, I thought the whole defense was. I mean, the linebackers were making plays. Guys were hitting. There was some, tackling well, great pressure, great coverage, big plays. Yeah, I thought the defense, especially early, was huge. And the shutdown. And look, I know Saquon Barkley isn't 2019 Saquon, but he can still bust a big one. Like if he gets to the next level, he still has that straight line speed. But what did he end up like 16 for? Let me look it up.
I got you. 15 for 32.
Yeah, so that's about 2 yards, just over 2 yards a carry.
Yeah,
and Booker, had really one good run, 10 yards, but they should probably use him more. He's probably better right now, but their run defense has been tremendous, really. They were 29th in the league in run defense as of week.
It's one of it's really flown under the radar, but it's one of the bigger storylines I think of this season because they were tremendous run defense in the 5 years under Jim Schwartz. They were. I mean, they were one of the best, if not the best, in the league. And then the first half of this season, they were awful. They couldn't stop anyone.
No.
So to see them really turn it around, I mean, it's kind of gone hand in hand with what they've done offensively, running the ball. Yeah. They've been just as good stopping the run.
Yeah, and we haven't really talked about it as much, but they're actually the number one run defense in the league since week 8. They were 29th through week 7, and from week 8 to week 15, 16, they're number 1, and that's not gonna change. They've held 4 straight teams under 85 yards. They've only allowed 100 yards once since week 8. I think that was the Saints game. They had like 102. But I think Fletcher, we've been hard on Fletcher at times this year, but he's been really, really good against the run.
And the last 2 weeks, they're getting December Fletcher.
Fletcher was great today. This is 2 weeks in a row. He's been great.
I mean, this is his most productive month by far in his career has been December.
Yeah.
And I don't think he thought he was going to make the Pro Bowl, but I think people doubting him gets them a little bit. And I don't think it's unwarranted to doubt him because I think it's pretty clear he's not the player he once was. I think it's pretty clear he didn't deserve to be a Pro Bowler. I think it's pretty clear he's overpaid right now. But if whatever motivates him to play like he played the last 2 weeks, that can be a difference maker down the stretch.
I hear you, but I really hope it's not the case that he needed that kind of motivation to play like this.
I guess, but guys do this all the time. Guys get motivated by external things.
He's in his 10th season, so he should be able to. I mean, he hasn't had a good year, but he's had 2 great games in a row.
And I mean, I think even like these last 2 games, he's been at a different level. But I even think since the beginning of the season, he's been getting progressively better in this defense. I think the last 2 weeks, it's been, really noticeable. But I think there was some steady progression from where he was early in the year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we started to see it right around, like everything kind of changed with week 8. It's crazy. Like the Lions game, it's like 2 months of frustration and 2 months of just missing on both sides of the ball. Everything kind of just fell into place, and they realized, hey, we can be a good team. And 6-2 since then. That was coming out of Vegas. But I think the same thing's true of Rodney. I think Rodney's had his 2 best games. And
Rodney's my player of the game.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was the play of the game, his pick. I mean, it was a 3-3 game. second play of the third quarter, second half. And Alex Singleton's, pick six was Rodney as well. So, he started the season coming off an ACL. He was not good early. He lost snaps to Marcus Epps. But I think the last couple of weeks we've seen Rodney play at a pretty high level. I mean, he almost had a pick last week, and then he had one. And he had a nice return too, and that was another thing because yards were so hard to come by at that point. What did he get? 24 yards on the return, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
When he got it down inside almost to the 20, and they scored on the next play, and then that got called back, and they ended up scoring on Boston Scott's touchdown. But yeah, that was a huge play. And, you're talking about Fletcher and Rodney. I mean, they're two of the older players on the team. And when they're playing like this is a completely different defense. So, yeah, that's been big.
I've been starting to go through the grades for my piece tomorrow in my head. Defense is going to get straight A's. At every level, they were really good. I'm thinking up front, Fletcher had a great game. Josh Sweat, I mean, he was destroying. Who was it? Matt Pert, and then he got hurt, and then whoever else.
He got hurt. He was.
And then Milton Williams had a big game.
Yeah, he did.
He had his first sack since Detroit.
That tackle, that was big.
He had a great game. Jannard Avery, really as a rusher. I mean, the Rodney interception was because of Jannard Avery.
It was, yeah.
He had that other play on Saquon, caught him from behind. Avery played well. We saw Singleton have the pick six. TJ Edwards almost made an incredible diving interception.
Yeah.
Then the secondary, I mean, Jake Fromm, I know he's not very good. The starting quarterback had 25 passing yards.
Yeah. Yeah, and Slay should have had a pick.
That was a big misplay because it did give the Giants points. They kicked the field goal there.
They did. They really should have shut this team out. I mean, and then I think there was a personal foul that kept the other drive going on fourth down. That was at Epps, I think.
Yeah, I never really got a great look at that.
Yeah, it was borderline. It was ticky-tack, but
yeah,
it was. I mean, they're going to call it. They're just, and there was no reason.
In any case, I thought that was a great performance by the defense.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, they could have shut him out. They probably should have shut him out. But yeah, the defense. Look, the defense has held 4 straight teams to 18 or fewer points. They've allowed 59 points in their last 4 games, and they're pretty good. And I would love to see them against. Maybe that Dallas game means something. Maybe Dak plays. Maybe it means something for both teams. I really want to see this defense against a good quarterback. And, Heineke's better than the last 2 guys they faced, but I don't think he's a special player. But he can make some throws. But, yeah, I want to see how they match up against a good quarterback because they're so much better than they were, the first couple months of the season. It's just like a different unit. And I think just Gannon – really understanding his personnel and figuring out ways to use guys. And, if you look at the snap counts from like week 1 to now, I mean, there you see, Eric Wilson there's just so many differences, so many guys playing in new roles and more snaps, less snaps. So he's figuring it out and they're executing. And there's no real weak link defensively right now. There's no, it's not like, the linebackers suck or, the corners are, really they're getting decent efforts from everybody.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like if I was an offensive coordinator, what I would do against this defense. And the weak spot I can think of, and it hasn't been weak recently, is I'd try to get some matchups on those linebackers, whether it's your running backs out of the backfield, your tight ends. So I still don't think they're the best in coverage, but good luck. If you're going to stop the run like this and make everything uphill, it makes life so much more difficult for offenses.
Yeah, I just wouldn't run against them. I just wouldn't run.
The problem with that is your quarterback's Jake Fromm.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying if I was an offensive coordinator, he wouldn't be my quarterback. I would chuck it deep every play and get like 20 DPIs and score 40 points.
Well, that seemed to be the game plan more so when Glennon got in there.
Yeah.
But if that's your solution, go to Mike Glennon, things aren't gonna go well.
He's terrible. I mean, I still think, and he put up some points at the end. He threw for a few yards. I still think he's worse than From whatever his name is. I knew I was gonna call him Ethan Frome on the pregame show, and I actually managed not to. Like 11th grade social studies, reading Ethan Frome. But in any case, it's crazy, Dave, how the improvement on both sides of the ball has mirrored itself, starting in week 8. I mean, that's complementary football over the long term. I mean, it's time of possession. They didn't win today, but I mean, they didn't really need to. But for most weeks, they're getting 35 minutes of ball control, and they probably could have if their backs were healthy. But that's another thing we got to figure out. But they're really playing complementary football pretty much every week now, and they just.
And you even think about like Rodney setting them up with the short field, and then even Jalen Reagor on that one punt return.
Yeah.
Good for him setting them up with a short field. They score on those possessions, and it doesn't help you in time of possession at the end of the game, but that's still complementary football. You're putting your offense that needed a boost in a really good spot.
Yeah, the field position. I mean, the first 4 drives, I think, all started like between the 16 and the 21 or something. So yeah, sometimes you just need that one thing, and the floodgates are going to open. I thought Rodney's pick was that thing today. I just felt like it was coming. I mean, even when it's 3-3, it did. I mean, there was no question they were going to win the game. It might have been 6-3.
I'll tell you what, though, that's the way I felt the last time they played this team, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So you give them credit for not having a repeat.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And that first half really did feel like the last Giants game, but they worked through it. Hey, there's so much to explore in Valley Forge and Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Montgomery County is composed of charming towns and main streets, each with its own personality, style, and unique vibe. Whether you're looking to get away with your family or enjoy a special trip with friends, leave behind the stress of planning and use our guide to find some of the most amazing things to do. Explore which town and which main street suits you the best, or visit them all. Visit makeitmainstreet.com to plan your getaway today.
So Rube, the Eagles are coming off a Tuesday game, short week, and they played like that, at least offensively, in the first half. And that's not to give them an excuse, but what do you think was going on with this team for the first 2 quarters, at least offensively?
Yeah, it seemed like it was partly that, partly the short week. The drops, I don't know if there's one reason they had 4 drops, but any one of them, if they're caught, the whole half could be different. I mean, if Goddard catches the ball on first down, then it would have been on the first play of the game. It would have been 2nd and 3. You run it there, then you start rolling. I mean, who knows? But sometimes it just happens. That stuff's contagious, and you just have to keep fighting and keep battling and keep trying and hope to get through, which they did. But it was you're not going to get away with that against a good team. You're not going to play like that in a first half against a good team and get away with it. You just won't. So, look, they were down 10-0 early last week or Tuesday, and you didn't want to see that, and they were 3-3 going into the third quarter. You don't want to see that. You're happy with the way they responded both times and won the game, but you got to play 60 minutes, this time of year. So I don't know. I don't know if it had to do with Sirianni not being there. I kind of doubt it, not being with the team during the week. I just think it was they just didn't seem as a group click. They just weren't clicking. So I don't know if it was any one thing or just a combination of fluky things that were happening. I mean, you don't see. I mean, Goddard will drop a pass here and there, but I mean that one, and I think it was Miles' first drop of the year, and then Jordan Howard dropped one. I mean, I think
they got lucky. They almost coughed up the ball on that kick return from Gainwell.
Yeah.
Hurts almost lost the fumble. I mean, they were lucky to not turn the ball over.
That got returned. Yeah, so it could have been a lot worse. When Gainwell fumbled, like here we go again. The game hasn't even started, and they got a break because the Giants could have recovered that really easily. There's a guy right there, went through his hands. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on it because they were all they were different people and different things happening. I guess you got to chalk it up to the short week, and they didn't practice a whole lot this week. They had walk through Thursday and practice Friday, right? That was it. So maybe that had something to do with it, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on because it's 2 weeks in a row that they've put themselves in a hole against a team that they should have been dominating. So, yeah, I mean, certainly you want to see them come out fast on Sunday in Washington.
Yeah, what did you make of Nick Sirianni's play calling earlier? Because it seemed like they had a couple big runs from Miles Sanders and a lot of passes.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, look, they scored 34 points, but 20 on offense. The first 3 plays were passes, and you got this historic offense, rushing offense, that's run for 175 yards and 8. You're averaging 214 rushing yards over the last 7 games. You're facing the 26th ranked Giants rushing defense. You're at home. The fans are going crazy. It's loud. And, the Giants were just looking for a reason to stop fighting, to stop playing. It came later, but I would have just come out and just tried to establish a run from the get-go. Now, I'm not one of these, you got to run it every down 50 times a game. I don't, but I thought the circumstances were just right to come out and try to establish it and get that going. Now, look, if Goddard catches the ball on first down at 2nd and 3, and maybe everything is different. But once it was 2nd and 10, he kind of had to, he had to throw. And yeah, but the fact that the first 3 plays, the first drive, I think 10 of the first 15 plays were pass plays. They were getting some good pressure on Jalen early as well. We saw Miles break off some big long runs. So it's a little nitpicky because they did end up, scoring a lot of points, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't think it's nitpicky because we're talking about an entire half of football where they didn't score. I mean, they kicked a field goal, but they played much better in the second half. But look, the offense did get some help from short fields in that second half. It doesn't take away the touchdowns, but it shows up in the stats at least. Jalen Hurts, I thought he responded well. The early plays in this game, not great. And he was a victim of some drops. And you don't want to pin all of it on him because you're right. Like Goddard catches that. Matt Sanders catches that. I didn't think he played particularly well in the first half. I thought he made some good throws in the second half.
Yeah, and it's something that you really like is his resilience and his ability to shake off a bad game or a bad play or a bad series or, whatever it is. He did that last week, kind of coming off the first Giants game. Yeah, I mean, the turnovers or just not, they weren't both turnovers. They weren't turnovers, but just the being loose with the ball is something you really, he's back there running around, carrying it like Shady. I mean, you can't do that. Shady can do that. He can't do that. And so they were lucky to get that one back, and they were lucky the pick wasn't a pick. It was close. But he's just got to be more careful. I like everything I like the fact that he only ran twice. I don't know if he says it's not the ankle. I kind of think it's the ankle.
Do you like that?
Yeah, because
I don't think that's enough.
Well, I mean, if his ankle's bothering him, which
I mean, if his ankle's bothering him, but for him to be at his best, he's got to run the ball if he's healthy.
It's pretty. But I mean, what I'm saying is, I like the fact that he was able to make throws. Really, the last 2 weeks, he hasn't run. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that he hasn't run since he came back from the injury. Ideally, you like to see him run for 55, 60 yards. But what I'm saying is, if he's compromised doing that, I like the fact that he's able to make throws to win some games. It's not ideal for him to be throwing, and not running. But if he can't run, I like the fact that he's been able to make throws the last couple of weeks, because he wasn't doing that really during a lot of these wins. He was, he's throwing like 12 times, 15 times or whatever, but he's had to because of the circumstances. And I thought he made some good throws, and obviously he missed Goddard, who was wide open in the end zone on one play, but that's going to happen. Um, I just thought he was in command. I thought he made good decisions for the most part. He wasn't great, but he was good enough. And in the second half, I mean, his numbers, I have him here. I believe after the first quarter, he was. I'm stalling now, trying to find it. After the first quarter, he was 14 for 19 for 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 139.8. So, that's pretty good. And he's not perfect. He still makes mistakes. He still misses guys. He makes an occasional bad decision, but he's got a good command of the team and the offense. And right now he's doing what he needs to do to win. And you'd like to see him clean up a couple things, but I thought overall it was an encouraging performance. And I just like the way he, when things are going bad, even if it's not your own doing, the drops, the looseness with the ball, he never wavers, and that's really big. I mean, he's so positive and he's so in the moment, and it sounds like cliches when he tells us, but he's really thinking that way. I think it really pays off in a game like today, where people are booing, guys are dropping balls, he's getting sacked. It's just they can't do anything right. Like 4 straight 3-and-outs, and you never see his body language never changes. He never hangs his head. So I like that about him. And and then he got warmed up and he made some throws.
Yeah. Early in that game, I thought there were a few where he kind of just tossed it up, got bailed out by his receivers. The Quez Watkins ball is a great catch. DeVonta had to play defensive back on that one. So there were some miscues, but you're right.
Yeah,
I mean, he did what he.
I didn't like the Quest throw.
Yeah. But it worked. And aside from those poor decisions, I'd say, I thought he played fairly well. And the touchdown plays, that's a big throw to DeVonta Smith. And the highlight of that play is DeVonta having the awareness to catch the ball the way he did on the sideline. His body control is unreal. He has that down better than most 10-year veterans in this league. It's really impressive. And it's a part of his athleticism. It doesn't show up on the spider chart. It's not him running a 40 or jumping a vert, but having elite body control is part of athleticism. And he is so good at that. It's unbelievable.
You made the point a few weeks ago that, when you in college, you only have to get 1 foot in. So he's really mastered that in his first year in the league, which, it says a lot about him that he's kind of added that to his game. It's a new wrinkle. I love what was the 44 yards, 46 yards, whatever the one big play, career long catch. Man, I love the way he attacked the ball. He high pointed it. He looked like a combination of a high jumper and a what's a male ballerina, like a
Isn't it still a ballerina?
I don't know. But he was so smooth and so fluid on that play, but he also was so aggressive to the ball, coming back to the ball and just skying over Bradbury. He did so many things at the end of that play, high pointing it, coming back to the ball, attacking the ball, being aggressive. And he was so high. He was like 5 feet off the ground. That was a really cool play to watch. I just kept watching that one. And I think they made a concerted effort to get the ball to him and ran some plays for him, because the last 3 games, he had more yards today than he had the last 3 games combined. He just didn't have the targets, didn't have the catches, and then they need him. I mean, look, this offense just isn't going to run at peak efficiency without DeVonta making plays. So, it's kind of come and gone this year for him, but he's such a special player. As Jalen gets experience and Nick, is more confident, I guess, in the passing game, I think DeVonta is going to be a star in this league.
In French, a male ballet dancer is referred to as a danseur. Danseur? I think danseur. In English-speaking world, boys or men who dance classical ballet are usually referred to as just ballet dancers, but the term ballerino is used in English-based countries as slang.
Thank you, Merriam-Webster.
That was the old Google. Let's talk about the lane play.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's fun. He reports is eligible, sells it, leaks out, and Hurts hits him with a perfect pass. It's a fun play. It's just it's the type of play that makes you feel good about this team because it's like, and it's a little hokey, but a play like that can be galvanizing. It really can.
Yeah, I thought it was such a beautiful thing to do. Lane's had a tough year. Everyone knows what he's been going through, and he's played really well since he came back. Like really, really well. Like as well as he's ever played. He was disappointed not to make the Pro Bowl team, not even to be an alternate. So there's like a lot going on, and it was Nick just kind of, hey, this one's for you, and I mean, he's a great athlete. He can catch the ball. He can pretty much do anything. High school quarterback, as you know. So he's got good hands, and yeah, that was a really cool play. I remember when Harriman's caught a couple. I think one in 2008 and one in 2010. But other than that, Lane's only the second O lineman in 50 years to catch a ball to catch a touchdown for the Eagles. So it's really cool. You would think like at some point, JP was a tight end with the Bills. You would think.
And we remember him now as like duct tape JP. I mean, when he was healthy, he could have caught a few.
Yeah, great athlete. So,
and was funny. On Fridays, we used to watch the O line. That was like their under Doug. That was their early Friday drill for the O line, was running routes. Kind of a fun Friday drill. All right, if you had to rank their 5 starting O linemen in ability to catch, and we'll put Lane at the top because we've seen him do it, how would you rank the other 4?
Herbig last.
Poor Herbie.
Herb. I don't think Boston Scott could remember his name.
Who would you put second?
Mulata. Well, no, I'll put Kelsey second because he was a lacrosse player. Not that they catch the ball in lacrosse, but just his athleticism. I mean, he played ice hockey. He played tennis. He could do any sport.
He was a linebacker. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll go Kelsey second, then Mulata.
But Mulata presumably would have to catch in rugby.
Yeah. I think Mulata can pretty much do anything. And then Dickerson, then Herbie.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but there was definitely some interesting touchdowns today. You had we didn't mention Alex Singleton's pick 6. He's only the 10th linebacker in NFL history who was not drafted with more than one career pick 6.
I did know that.
Really?
I saw you tweet it. That's
okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I understand he's not the linebacker a lot of fans want. They want, look, he's not Micah Parsons, but I understand that. But if you had Micah, you wouldn't have had DeVonta. But, look, everyone wants him to draft a linebacker. But since he's come back, I think it's 5 games now since his playing time was dramatically curtailed. Since he's come back, he's played pretty well. He's actually, I think, played significantly better than he did before he got benched, quote unquote. I think he's been pretty solid. And, that was, look, pick 6, I don't care, I don't care what the circumstances are. To get 2 pick 6s in back-to-back seasons as an undrafted linebacker is pretty cool. Yeah. And he's he's been through, the CFL and cut by like 4 teams, practice squad and all that. And it's just, you're just happy for him. It's pretty cool. Whatever happens in the future, who knows? But it was a cool stretch there. I think they scored 31 points in like 17 minutes, something like that. And it's just like you just knew they were going to find a way to score like on every play there. So there were some unusual touchdowns, with Singleton and Lane and DeVonta. Just it was unusual because it was the replay review said it wasn't a touchdown.
What the heck? What happened there?
So my theory is that they improperly communicated like the results of the review to the official, like they hadn't actually done it. And I'm just guessing that they, it was somebody in his ear said, it was incomplete, like the ruling on the field. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
It doesn't make any sense. That's like you called it a touchdown on the field. It's going to get reviewed anyway.
Yeah. I think something was incorrectly communicated to him. That's my guess. Because I don't know what else he could have been thinking, unless but there was another gap of time. It's not like he said the wrong thing. It's not like he was like, yeah, it's been overruled. Oh, no, it was a touchdown. There was like another gap of time.
They reviewed the review.
They reviewed the review.
So, at what point is DeVonta going to start getting the benefit of the doubt on those?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because great players, you'll see them, like especially guys who are known for making those catches. If the refs know that and they start calling them on the field.
Yeah.
We've had 2 in 2 weeks now where they've called them incomplete. At what point are the refs going to be like, all right, yeah, this guy's probably making these catches?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe year 2 you start getting that benefit of the doubt. But he's man, I mean, I told you this comparison before, but he just reminds me of Mike Quick with his ability to make those sideline catches. Mike was the best I've ever seen doing that, getting his feet in bounds and catching the ball. There's one in my mind. I picture Quick with his feet, just grazing his feet on the grass, and he's like 20 yards out of bounds catching the ball like over the bench. And I'm probably like exaggerating it in my mind, but Mike will probably tell you that's how it happened. But yeah, it's when he catches those, I'm convinced he's in bounds, and he's so nonplussed about it. He's like, yeah, I've always been good at that.
Well, the fun thing about it is he's not very cocky, but he's very confident. So last week I asked him about it. Tonight someone asked him about it. Like, did you know you caught it? And he's like, yeah, of course. Like I know where my feet are. I know I caught the ball. And you even see him like try to, like, not this time because I rolled with a touchdown at first, but last week he pointed to where his feet were on the ground and tried to show the ref. I like that confidence and that awareness from him. Those are the fun plays for him because he shouldn't be able to do that yet.
Yeah, you're right. And it's funny because like I didn't even have to see it twice to know he was in bounds. I'm like, you know what? This is just what he does. And he asked him about it, and he's like, yeah, I've always been good at that. Like, always been good at it. It's your first year in the NFL. But yeah, he's fun. All the touchdowns were fun today. And then Boston had his 8th touchdown against the Giants.
Yeah.
Most in the NFL over the last 3 years. The guy barely plays, and Zeke is second with 7, which is it's crazy. I mean,
Boston has 12 in his career and 8 are against the Giants. The Giants are the only team playing the Eagles, and Miles gets hurt, and they go, oh, crap.
It's true. He is a giant killer. Score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For details, visit AAA.com/Eagles. It's the Nissan year-end sales event with last chance offers you'll want to hang on to. Shop your local Nissan store or visit nissanusa.com. Better hang on to those deals before they slip away.
Let's talk about something that I don't think anyone's talked about, at least not at length. I think there needs to be a conversation about it. Is there any steam behind Nick Sirianni being coach of the year?
Yeah, I think he's in the mix. And I think it's kind of been a given that Bill Belichick, I think, people love giving Bill Belichick these awards. Did they end up losing to the Bills today? I didn't even see the final score because we were busy, but you can look that up. But when you
they did 33-21.
They lost.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that could get him over the top. When you look at the job he's done keeping this team together, I mean, it really is impressive. And especially, you're in the middle of a pandemic, so you're constantly adjusting as far as personnel, who you have, the way you're practicing and holding meetings. This is a team that won 4 games last year. And, we were in the middle of the whole quarterback thing when he got here. He had to navigate through that. He's got a young quarterback. And this team was getting blown out on a regular basis the first half of the season by, the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Raiders, the Cowboys. And he's held it together throughout. He's got a different way of doing things than a lot of coaches, but they work. The stuff that people thought was high school Harry is actually resonating with the players. And they play hard for him and they believe in him. And his belief in them has paid off with 6-2 in the last 8 games. I don't know what else you look for from a coach of the year. He's revived a franchise in his first year. It's only the 3rd time in the last 50 years the Eagles have doubled their win total. And one of the other times was in Chip Kelly's first season. After that mess that Andy left in 2012, things were really bad. And this is the same way. I mean, that was a dead team by the end of last year. And I think he's come in and made his personality work. This is a guy who's never called plays. He's never been a head coach. I'm very, very impressed. I mean, it's no secret I wanted Deuce Staley to be a head coach just because I've known Deuce for 20 years. And I think he would have done a good job. I still think he's going to be a good head coach sometime. And he might have had this team at 8-7 as well. But there's no way to argue with the decision that Jeff Lurie and Harry Roseman made. I mean, they found themselves a leader, an innovator, a guy who's shown an ability to adjust. And, I mean, certainly the offense, the way they were running offense the first half of the season and now, players are getting better. Young players are contributing for the first time. It's a really impressive performance by the head coach.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think his name gets into that mix, or do you think it's not going to happen?
Oh, I think it will. I mean, first-year coaches certainly. I mean, there's certain guys you can give it to Andy Reid any year, And they actually name that before the postseason, right? I don't think they take the playoffs into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some guys that you look at. I mean, the dude down in Miami. Oh my God! I mean, what they've done is really impressive. He'll get some run, but I'll put what Nick has done up against anybody, and I think Belichick will get it. I mean, everyone thought they were going to kind of fall by the wayside without Brady, and they did for a year, but to be where they are post Brady, I think is going to. It's going to be like a lifetime achievement award for Belichick. Oh, he can win without Brady. It's the first time he's ever done it. So I assume he's going to get it. But if I had to vote, I'd probably vote for Nick.
All right, let's go to the negativity corner. I'll start this one off. I'm at home. I'm very negative about this. I got put on the COVID list. Nick came off. I went on this week, so I got to wait my time. I feel fine. Thank you to everyone who said nice things, but gosh, I hated being home today. And I know why you guys dislike this particular broadcast crew. I'll leave it at that.
Is this Jonathan Vilma is in the Dave's negativity corner?
COVID's in my negativity corner.
Okay.
With an assist from that crew. Yeah.
I'll go penalties, and they really regressed as far as penalties go today. I think it was 11 for the game. And some of them were really, really costly. I mean, Quez with the hold, DeVonta wiped out a first down with an illegal block.
That was BS, by the way. That one. Sorry.
No, it's kind of. I mean, they're going to call that. Fletcher had a bad off.
No, they're not. They shouldn't call that. They called OPI, and he was running the route. He didn't extend. Whatever. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I thought he did, but Fletcher jumped off sides on a third down. Goddard had that illegal block that gave him a 1st and 20. Epps, the game's over. It's 4th down. It was like 4th and 15, and they got like 2 yards. And at the end of the play, Epps, little personal foul, It was a borderline, yeah, but they're going to call it, and that gives them a new set of downs, and they get a touchdown. It would have been 34-3, which sounds a lot better. And certainly, as far as defensive stats, you don't want to give up that touchdown. But there was just too many penalties. So that's my entry in Dave's negativity corner.
I'll go with the running backs, both of them getting hurt. Miles Sanders left with a hand injury. Jordan Howard had a stinger, which particularly for him is worrisome because everyone remembers a couple years ago, that's what they called his injury when he was done for the year, was a stinger. So you hope he's okay. You hope Miles is okay. They finished with, well short of that 100 and whatever yards they needed to continue that streak. What do they have in this one? They have 130. Yeah, 130 rushing yards. Not a bad performance, but not up to their standard for sure. And having both of the running backs hurt, I mean, they're going to need those guys down the stretch. So that's going to be something to watch this week.
Yeah, I don't really have much more other than drops. Can drops be a negativity corner? I mean, because
absolutely.
It's not a person, but it was just, and it does seem contagious. Like once you have a couple guys just start dropping the ball, you can't have that. And you look at what Hurts's numbers would have been if those drops, even if he had 3 of them, all of a sudden he's 20 for 29, 225 yards. So there's really not a whole lot to complain about in this one. Like you said, you kind of take the first half for what it is. They certainly made up for it in the second half.
Yeah, ended up being a big win for them, and we'll be back with you guys later in the week to talk about it.
Only the 4th time in history Eagles have scored 3 or fewer points in the first half and 31 or more in the second half.
Interesting. When's the last time?
Last time was actually the Jacksonville game. I think it was 2014 when they were down 17-0 at half and won 34-17.
Wow.
I think Sproles had a big game in that game, and they outscored them 34-0 in the second half. So, but yeah, it's rare. So you'll take it. 8-7 is a good place to be.
It certainly is, especially after you start with a 2-5 record. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We hope you guys had a great Christmas for those who celebrated it, and we hope you enjoyed watching a fun game on Sunday. We'll be back with you later in the week. For Reuben, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan.